What's up, everybody? Jimbo Lucas here. So, my last video explained how I realized I hadn't really posted anything like this in a while on my channel, and all of a sudden, I realized, well, I didn't really get into depth with certain aspects of intermittent fasting. I talked about how it went against everything that I had thought as far as like what you need to do as far as nutrition, how often you eat, all of that stuff. So I also explained how it was hearing an interview with Joe Rogan and George St. Pierre that got me thinking about, well, if it'll work for George St. Pierre, it could work for me. After I did that, I really started paying attention to everything that I came across with intermittent fasting. I really started studying it. So I didn't just see a George St. Pierre interview and then just start doing it. I did my studying, and one of the biggest things that all of a sudden made it start clicking was how once you get X amount of fasted hours in, and that's where they scientifically came up with, that 16 hours. And I believe that's going to get you past the point where you've digested everything, it's out of your system, now you're fasted, and once you're fasted for X amount of time, your growth hormone elevates. So that's why if all of a sudden, you're in a bad situation and you either have to eat earlier than anticipated or later than anticipated, and you can't hit that 16-hour window the way you want to, well, go ahead and stretch it out a little bit longer. I mean, unless you're at the point where you're going to faint because your blood sugar's low, go ahead and stretch that thing out. That's why all of a sudden I have a little more flexibility with the company that I'm with now, to where most of the time I won't eat before 10 a.m. If all of a sudden it's hopping and we've got a few minutes of downtime, we need to get our break out of the way, and then we go for that 9:30 break. Once in a great while, it's only happened a couple times that we went a little bit earlier, but nothing drastic. It was like 9:15. The cool thing is, if all of a sudden stuff is out of whack once in a while, but by and large, 90+% of the time, your fasting window is 16 plus hours, you're going to be good to go. Maybe that once in a while where it's less than, maybe that'll be good for you. But back to kind of what I was getting at, I didn't go into detail about the elevated growth hormone levels. Like your hormones do different things, when you have food in your system versus when you're fasting. So one of the hormones that elevates while you're in a fasted state is growth hormone. That's why, you can see some folks who are in fantastic shape and, they're doing the intermittent fasting, and sometimes they're even doing, they're doing the OMAD, one meal a day, which technically one meal a day probably falls into more like a 22-2, because you're not going to get everything you need for the day in one little 30-minute sitting. So pardon me, folks, because I am driving and the weather is still sketchy. This is Thanksgiving, and I wound up not going to Kansas. My four-wheel drive was dead, so I haven't figured that issue out yet. So I'm in a little, Mazda 323, and it's great on mileage, not so great in the snow. So some of the roads are decent, some of the roads are sketchy, so turn lanes, stuff that didn't get plowed, kind of sketchy. So I was turning off, and it was super packed, super slushy. One of them things where a little car gets caught in a rut and it's going to go kind of pulling you wonky. like this smacks a curb or something, it's in bad shape. All right, so anyway, if you all know me, you know that I will just get off on a tangent and just start just babbling about all sorts of stuff. But you know, that was one of the big things that really got me thinking about it, really got me realizing, okay, well, you know what, I'm not gonna be any worse off if I try intermittent fasting. If nothing else, it's gonna make scheduling my meals a whole lot easier and stress-free. I don't have to sit here and calculate, all right, well, I'm gonna have this in the morning before I go to work. I'm gonna have this at break. I'm gonna have this at lunch. I need to try to get home ASAP so I can have this or whatever. You know, like a good portion of my life was like that when it came to eating and when to eat and how to eat and all of that stuff. And this has really eased it up. For the most part, I eat 2 or 3 times a day. That's it. You know, I kind of schedule my first meal based off of what the bulk of my week is like. People, sorry, you can see the human side of Jimbo coming out when it comes to dealing with other people on the road. And so I'm coming home from the gym, and I had a fasted workout, which I was pretty excited about. Haven't done that in a while, and it's just, you know, once in a while you just gotta get something like that in. You're not gonna be able, in for those of you who are gonna be watching this, who are, you know, you eat all the time and all of that, one of the biggest downfalls is you're not going to get the reps in. You're not going to get the numbers in. You're not going to get the reps in that you would get if you were eating before your workout. And that's true, but for me, and I think a lot of people will relate, you know, to kind of where I'm at. I'm older. My joints have taken a beating, you know, from just a life of being, you know, a boy and a teenager and a man and always doing something athletic. You know, I can go back to, so real quick, and I promise all of this ties together. It'll kind of tie into last video where I was talking about how intermittent fasting, all of a sudden I realized it's helping me in all sorts of other ways, because I don't have to worry about going in and getting all of these extra workouts in to stay lean, and that's helping to save my joints, because my joints are beat up. You know, I'm going to be 47 pretty soon. I'm a professional wrestler by night, an electrician by day, and that combination on top of a lifetime of just doing weird stuff as a kid, where you're jumping off of your uncle's roof at the age of 4, and you're jumping off of one of those big jungle gyms in 1st grade, you know, and then you're playing football, and you wind up being one of those kids who doesn't learn how to, because it doesn't come naturally, and then nobody realizes it and pulls you over and straightens you out. You don't run on your toes at all until the age of 15, and everything is heel to toe, and it's just a lot of shock in the body, a lot of, you know, just extra wear and tear that should have never been there to begin with. And it is what it is, you know. I started playing football, and all of a sudden, you know, the coaches are screaming at us during conditioning drills at the end of the training session, at the end of practice, and they're like, stay on your toes. I don't even know what that means, you know, like I'm still running heel to toe, but then I'm pushing off of my toes, you know. And I had a teammate pull me over and basically said, hey, sorry, I'm distracted, I'm watching a squirrel run through the snow with a nut in his mouth. A dude is getting prepared. He pulls me over and was like, Jim, just don't let your heels touch the ground. That's all it took, you know. But because the first 15 years of my life were the way they were. Like, I wind up with really skinny calves, which, I did a lot of catch-up conditioning-wise, so for years my calves were in really good shape. They were just small. Like, endurance-wise, they were in good shape. Nowadays, I just kind of do what I do to get by, to be able to get through my workday and to be able to wrestle on the weekends. So I got to find balance. Older athletes can sometimes be prone to Achilles injuries, and that would really hinder everything that I've got to do. So I am a little ginger when it comes to certain things. I try to find that happy balance nowadays. But intermittent fasting now provides me a way to get rather lean, or stay rather lean, get rather lean, and then stay rather lean without all of that additional cardio and all of that stuff. And because my joints are beat up, I got to a point where when I was in prison, initially when I knew I was going to go to prison, I had all of these visions of hitting that weight pile out on the yard and finally, making my wrestling comeback and just being huge. Well, in Colorado, if you get stuck in the privates, you're probably going to be working with junk machine weights, and I got stuck with the privates for a bit. I was at that point where I would try to do heavier stuff, and I was always re-aggravating my old injuries. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to lighten my load. I'm going to start doing some circuit training, and I'm going to cut up. So I felt like I had a good base, and I would transition on, going from being that big, 255 pound, bruiser, and on the shoot side, typically we embellish our body weights. So I was about 240 though, legitimately, when I got in trouble, and I was billing myself at about 255. So it wasn't that big of an embellishment. So I felt like, you know what, I think it would make sense, psychology-wise, to come back and focus on being a junior heavyweight. And so far, that's worked very well for me. I built myself at a hair under 200 pounds, and as you all know, we most of the time, not all the time, I guess nowadays it's a little more common to go with the shoot weight, but we usually will still embellish our body weight. And I kind of have to do that, because if I went out there and gave my actual shoot weight, everybody'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" Say what? So, couple of reasons why I do what I do, but it's overall it's worked pretty well. So, not to get completely off track here, and those of you that know me, most of the people watching this video, know me. So we'll be, whether it's show day or whatever, we'll be having a conversation, and all of a sudden Jimbo just kind of goes off track. I don't know, maybe it's age, maybe it's head injuries, maybe it's everything. I get a lot of stuff going on in my head, and all of a sudden it's just like they're fighting to get out, especially when I'm making a video, and there's so much stuff that we can talk about with this. But intermittent fasting, once again, is just, I figured worst case scenario, it was still going to make life easier with worrying about how much to eat and when to eat and all of that. And next thing you know, a month or two later, I've dropped like 20 plus pounds, and it's noticeable, and then I was able to progress, I think, a few more pounds from there. I had a period where I had gained some weight back more than I wanted to, because it coincided with me getting laid off, and my activity level went down. I was really sick for like a week, and just pretty much laid up in bed for almost a whole week. What in my window, I intentionally threw my window out, because Katie and we had talked about me gaining a few pounds back, which the focus was on gaining like 5 pounds back, which right now I'm at the point where I kind of did that. and it's working better for me because my overall activity level is where it needs to be with work, going up and down the ladders all day long, and then getting my training sessions in, and all of that stuff, and then just random, maybe some random sets of push-ups on off days, go knock out a couple sets of push-ups or whatever. But today, it's Thanksgiving. Katie and the kids are in Kansas, and all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, I'm going to the gym and I'm gonna make a fasted workout. And they're tough, but you see a lot of high level athletes, and a lot of wrestlers will at least get the fasted cardio sessions in, like early morning fasted cardio, and then they probably go ahead and start eating, and then they focus on like a heavier weight session later. But I typically stick with all circuits, for the most part, body weight stuff, circuit training, body weight calisthenics. So I did a few sets on a leg press machine just to get some heavier leg stuff in, because I haven't done that in a long time now. It's probably seriously been like a good 6 months. And then I got some good core in. I got a good all-around full body workout. I didn't really focus on overall conditioning, but when it's 10:30 in the morning and you haven't eaten yet, your glucose levels are going to bottom out real fast, and then you're going to be out of gas real fast anyway. So it kind of, to me, and this might be a little on the opinionated side, it's a way to get one of those really fast, really effective workouts that under other circumstances might not be as effective as they are. So if I would have done something along the lines of a 21:15:9, and I've done that before as a fasted workout, it's gnarly. But here's the thing, you're done, seriously, like if you take your time and get a few extra seconds of rest in between everything, you're still done in less than 10 minutes. And you blast yourself, like you'll just like feel your whole body burning, like lactic acid is going everywhere, and all of that. And you'll be toast, like your muscles will be toast, your lungs will be toast, your lungs will be burning. But deep down, it was a great workout. It was a fasted workout, and it's gonna help you potentially, just that alone, seriously, I think would help you drop another half a pound or a pound of body fat. And to look at that all by itself doesn't seem like much, but you start doing that on a regular basis, and if you're in a situation where you're still dropping a little bit anyway, all of a sudden that can help you very quickly put yourself over the top with where you want to get. So once again, I didn't even realize this video was going to wind up being this long, but hey, that's okay. Sometimes we just got to talk about stuff. So I am going to end this video for now. I'm going to head inside. I had my after workout snack of a protein drink and a complete cookie, but I'm going to go start finding other things to prepare, go feed my dogs, go probably work on putting together another batch of laundry, get the dishwasher loaded up so that when mama and the kids get home, everything's up to snuff. All right, folks, until next time, Jimbo out.